At least I'm not boring. As messy as I can be, as inconvenient as I can be to the people who love me, at least I'm not boring. Can anyone relate to this? If you're here, you can. I know it. I trust it. You are either the one who says that, or you should start saying it, or you know and love someone who you seek to understand better, and you seek to love more unconditionally, even through the ways that maybe they drive you crazy. Need 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 you now. Thank you for being here with me for episode 10 of Yubu Podcast. This is a show about what it means to know, love, and lead yourself. And I believe that when each of us takes full responsibility for the way that we show up in the world, the way that we experience ourselves and life, the world gets to be a better place. And that's why I always start the show saying, evolving the collective by way of everyone. Because that is what we are doing when we are saying, I'm open to learn and I'm open to grow. And so thank you for being someone who values that and for taking time out of your day to listen to a show that allows you to open your perspective and to receive something that hopefully supports you in the areas of knowing, loving, and leading yourself. And so I want to start this episode by sharing one of my mantras that drives all the work that I do. And it is my wish for everyone in the world. And that is, may you feel alive and inspired in your authentic, soul-led life. Today, we are going to talk about this fun idea of, at least I'm not boring. As messy as I can be, as inconvenient as I can be to the people who love me, at least I'm not boring. Can anyone relate to this? If you're here, you can. I know it. I trust it. You are either the one who says that, or you should start saying it, or you know and love someone who you seek to understand better, and you seek to love more unconditionally, even through the ways that maybe they drive you crazy, or that you maybe can't quite understand them, but you want to. And so this episode really is for anyone who can relate to being someone who maybe is a colorful person. Maybe there's something really different or unique about you. And maybe that can show up in really great ways for the gifts you give to the world. Maybe the way you bring creativity or art or ideas to the world, or love or intuitive ability, or maybe you are a deep feeler or a highly sensitive person. And because of that, there's so much sweetness or realness or truth or creative solutions that you're able to bring to the world. And then on the other side of that, though, with the full spectrum of color that you just are by being you, there's also hard things and frustrating things. And because of that, people can be hard on you or invalidate you or dismiss you or misunderstand you or tell you that you're wrong or make you feel like you are. And so in that way, you can internalize this feeling of being not enough or being wrong. And that's what I did for a very long time. And today I want to share with you some little golden nuggets and some stories on how we come to terms with the fact that we all have something different to bring. And so, how can we expand our capacity to love each other unconditionally and to value ourselves and each other in a bigger way through our differences? And more specifically, even, how can you embrace your unique kind of weird that you bring to the world and not hate on yourself about it? Because it's beautiful and it's perfect and it's exactly who you need to be. And of course, we want to clean up the ways that we continue to create messes that just don't feel good, because that's not our true essence. It's our human struggle getting in the way. And so there's all kinds of ways that we're going to keep talking about that. And that is the whole point of this show. And so this one is going to hopefully provide some unconditional love for the ways that these dynamics have maybe hurt you a little bit. And I want to start with a really lighthearted example that just happened in my life. So, just a few days ago, I was with my dad and my brother, and we were out exploring the Red Rocks National Park in Nevada. And I said, when we pulled up, we jumped out of the truck, and I said, in a way that is safe, I really hope that we get to see a snake today. And my dad replied saying something like, that's just weird. You're just weird. And my brother chimed in and said, well, at least you're not boring. And, my dad, he was saying that in a lighthearted way. It's just funny to me that my brother said, at least you're not boring, because just the day before, 2 days before, I said the exact same thing to my husband. And it's actually something that I say kind of often. And I want to give you this gift of being able to say this to yourself. If anyone thinks that you are weird or that you are inconvenient or that they don't understand you or they don't agree, it doesn't have to be wrong. You don't have to make them wrong for disagreeing with you or not seeing you fully or not loving what you said or what you're bringing. And you also don't have to make yourself wrong. Two things can be true at the same time. And this is what we often forget in the moment when someone is bringing us something that we just don't automatically agree with. And so we make it weird. We make it wrong. We say, you're weird. You're wrong. I don't like it. And then it can just become this negative experience that we are all different, when really it's beautiful and so, so needed for the harmony of all of us to be in a collective. And so there's a way that you could take a comment like, you're weird, or that's just weird, in a really hurtful way. And I think there's a version of me when I was younger who really would have. As a sensitive, deep feeler, being misunderstood by the people you love, or hearing them say that they think you're weird, or anything around them wishing you were different or that you're wrong, can easily start to feel like, I'm not enough, I'm broken, I need to fix, I need to conform, I need to be more like them. And so, what if, though, you are the spice of life for being who you are? And that's kind of what my brother was touching on in that moment, is at least you're not boring. And I love that, because it brings a lightheartedness to the fact that we're all different, and that's a good thing. That is a good thing. And I believe that with my whole heart. And so I want to share something that I wrote. This episode is going to be a little different. And actually, before I dive into that, I want to acknowledge the fact that clearly I'm in a different space than Moonwild Studio right now. I am in the Sahara Hotel. I'm in the Sahara Hotel in Las Vegas right now. And I love this room so much. It's so cool, you guys. And I want to take a little side quest right now in our discussion to just talk about the nature of this podcast. And it relates to this conversation in the fact that I gave myself permission to be different and to do this differently in a way that suited me, that goes against the advice that I've been given. And not for the purpose of going against, but for the purpose of doing what inspires me, following my own inspiration and my own truth, and trusting that the world has the capacity to receive uniqueness. And the world loves to receive uniqueness. And so even though I'm learning right now from an amazing podcasting mentor, and actually multiple ones, and I take their advice into consideration, and I love learning from people, but it doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to change the way I want to do things because someone else said that's what worked for them, because what works for me is going to be different. So for me, instead of pre-recording a bunch of episodes, I'm actually recording these and posting them either the day of or a few days later. And for me, there's something about the energy of it being what's happening in my life right now and what's happening in the world right now. And even though these episodes can stand alone and be listened to 2 years from now and it will still be relevant, it's not based on news or anything like that, current events. But there's something about sharing in the energy that I'm in that point in time, and letting the podcast come with me as I live my life. So I travel a lot, and I thought, wouldn't it be fun if instead of before leaving for a trip, I have to batch a whole bunch of episodes in advance, just bring it with me. And I get to share with you guys some of what comes through as I'm traveling. So right now I'm in Las Vegas because my brother lives here part-time for a really amazingly cool work project that he's doing in sustainable innovation in producing magnesium. And so that's a story for another time. I do want to talk about it at some point because it's so incredible what happens when you trust yourself and how you can bring new ideas that benefit so many people when you actually do trust yourself to do something completely new and completely innovative. So my brother's work took him here to Las Vegas. I never thought I would spend 11 days in Las Vegas, or that I would want to, but here I am, and I'm here with my family. And we came from all different places to meet here at my brother's cool spot, and I'm staying in this hotel right now, and I love it. This hotel is bringing out this new energy, this new feeling of just inspiration that is, I'm so excited I get to set up a makeshift podcast studio here and be able to share in some of this inspiration energy that this just staying in this room has brought me, because there's some really cool things about it and the view is amazing. And even just the decision to stay in a hotel instead of try to sleep on the couch or the floor and try to limit myself based on the expenses, and just say, let's just do this right and let it feel good. Really being in the frequency and the energy of abundance with this trip, and deep connection and allowance for the differences of all of us and the different things we care about and want to talk about and want to do. Being on this trip is really an exercise in everything I speak about on the show and that I want to share with you as a way to lead yourself through life's circumstances. So life brought me here because I care about meaningful connection and quality time with my family. And I also care deeply about my work and my passion projects. And so all of those things get to coexist, and life is not separate from our purpose or our most purposeful work. And that is what I really believe, and that is the way I'm choosing to live. So just a little side note on why my backdrop looks different today. So I'm so excited to be speaking to you from this place. Going back to how my brother said, "At least you're not boring," and how I laughed and I loved it because 2 days ago I said the same thing to my husband. And my husband and I had a challenging experience upon getting ready to leave for this trip. And while I was on the plane, I felt really inspired to just write about it. And then I realized this is going to be a page of the book I'm writing right now. And I want to actually share it with you. So before I started talking about the hotel room, I said this podcast episode is going to be a little bit different. And here's one of the ways it's going to be different is I just felt inspired to read a page of the book I'm writing with you, because it relates to this topic of how do we reconcile the fact that being a colorful person means that sometimes you can bring some BS to the people's lives that you love by accident. In my experience, that's true. And there are so many people I have in my life who I absolutely adore because of how creative and visionary and unique they are. And those people also can be late, messy, frustrating, emotional, right? It's not always convenient to be magical. But imagine a life where everything is predictable and linear and logical, not spontaneous, not interesting, not intriguing. There's a need for the people that bring art through their existence. And part of that is the mess sometimes, right? And actually, I don't think any human being could only bring peace with their existence. In some sense, all of us can be frustrating. All of us can hurt each other by accident, and we do. And so what do we do with that? Without creating shame, without creating disconnection and misunderstandings and harboring resentment that just reverberates deeper and deeper into our psyche and our soul and our energy. How can we hold it lightly and let ourselves be loved through that? And so I want to read what I wrote on the plane. Once we were taking off, I had a feeling come over me, and I love flying. I had a feeling come over me that was like, okay. And I picked up my phone and I just started to write. And I wrote this. September 19th, 2024. Yesterday was hard. Matt and I fought all day. Then I had a big healing session with Kelly. And while I literally cried with gratitude for her support, I had a vulnerability hangover afterwards. And this morning was worse. Now I'm okay. Happy even. dare I say lighthearted, social, optimistic, trusting? Yep, I'm back. I can still feel the density of stress diffusing from my nervous system and my bones. What a colossal amount of pressure I put on myself as I attempt to be both fabulous and low maintenance. The morning before an 11-day trip to the lawless, sparkly land of Las Vegas. Realizing my suitcase, big enough for me to sleep in, was 4 pounds overweight, and thank goodness for the at-home wear thingy, I began to toss out things like the 10th bathing suit option, the extra pair of sandals, the too large bottle of sunscreen, the excessive hair products, the borderline too prissy dress, and the curling iron, grumpily announcing to no one in particular but anyone who was listening, I'm moving to an island. I'm never being high maintenance and caring about what I look like again. I'm tired of having all these things. Why am I so bad at packing? Where am I going wrong? What am I supposed to take out of here and keep in? Someone needs to teach me how to pack. The stress in the air was palpable. It filled up the entire living room, the entire house. Maybe even my neighbors could feel it. The biggest dark cloud of all of it, though, is that this was just yet one more time where I promised myself and my husband that I wouldn't do this again. And hello, hi, well, here we are. Here I am, once again, deep in the weeds of executive dysfunction, shame, and emotional overwhelm, and little things sprawled over the kitchen table that I don't quite know where they go right now, and it's all piling up to make me feel like a big, fat failure. How could I possibly, despite all of my good intentions and genuine efforts and diligent planning and passionate desire and unwavering commitment to being a better human being, how could I possibly be here again? Deep in the frantics of time closing in on me as I need to make impossible decisions about which items to leave behind. I had confidently declared to my family and my husband that this time I was going to be low maintenance for real. But wait, why? We are going to the bedazzled land of Las Vegas, and we are doing outdoor things and poolside things and fancy things and birthday things and ending the week with a 2-day music festival. Perhaps this wasn't the trip to attempt such nonsense as minimalism. Although I'm not sure if I understand the meaning of that word as I browse through the stacks of clothes attempting to remove 1 or 2 more items, noticing the paisley, the silk, the satin, the lace, the tassels, and the sequins, wondering, can a maximalist, free-spirited artist ever actually achieve minimalist travel? I did that one time. It was our honeymoon. I traveled Thailand for almost 3 weeks with nothing but a small under-the-airplane seat-size backpack. It was a freaking miracle. There was something about marrying him that lit a fire under my desire to show up better. And look, it was easier when going to a series of islands in 100-degree weather in honeymoon energy where the need for clothes or anything else was basically irrelevant. In the 9.5 years between then and now, there have been countless travel-related triumphs and failures that the two of us have shared. Today, I just got to add to the hot mess category. And while I do honestly feel bad about it, perhaps the humility and in hindsight humor of it all fueled me to write this on the plane, as these moments often do. Maybe this is the way that the universe reminds me that my creative spirit is fueled by funny moments of failure sometimes. And for that, maybe I don't have to be so damn hard on myself about it all. About the times where I don't quite measure up, where I cross off only 20 of the 23 things on my oversized to-do list, with my eager yellow highlighter as if there is some teacher to impress into giving me an A still as a self-employed woman at the age of 40. In my pursuit of overachieving, I so often underachieve. And I have to just laugh at the irony of it all. If I tried to do less and be a bit more chill, I'd probably be ready on time, maybe even with less stuff in my bag, because of all the less baggage I would have in my mind. And guess what? We arrived at the airport early, very luxuriously early. And my bag was 2 whole pounds underweight. There was really quite literally nothing to worry my busy little hamster hiney over. And then, when my Olympic level of patience-achieving husband was cutely pinching it as we breezed our way effortlessly through to our gate, everything in my world was suddenly right again. I can't even believe the shiitake he puts up with, y'all. I must be pretty magical in the good times for him to stick around through the shenanigans of my tornado moments. All I can really say is my heart overflows with gratitude as I am about to finish this sentence and open up my plant-based snack box that he just bought me while flying above the clouds on my way to see some of my favorite humans. I asked Matt to share from his perspective, and this is his story. 3 letters, all in caps. WTF! Exclamation mark. I thought about what I would title this mini chapter, and I put The Colorful Adventures of a Childless Cat Lady. Or, at least I'm not boring. Which is exactly what I said to Matt as we walked through the airport and realized that our fear of being late was an illusion after all. And that the tornado of stress I created happened out of this genuine desire to do everything in a way that feels so meaningful, so beautiful, so on point, and how I can so miss the mark when I'm holding such high expectations for myself. And then I just have to laugh about it and realize, like, wow, with all of this color exploding from my spirit, I'm so far from perfect, but at least I'm not boring. I share this openly and honestly with you all because I work in the field of personal development and I hold powerful space for people to better themselves. And yet, here I am, having stories like this to share. And it's important for us to show that to one another because it's the truth. There are areas of my life where I have profoundly grown and shown incredible self-leadership, and that's the truth. And there are areas of my life where I continue to be reminded that there is still growing to do. And that is the case for everyone. No one reaches this point of, I am healed, I am perfect, the work here is done. And if they say that they are, then maybe what they're saying is, I've come to a place of complete acceptance for who I am. There is nothing to be fixed. It's all good, baby. It's all gravy, baby. There's nothing for me to fix. And that's beautiful too. So there's also people who are in denial and refuse to look at areas where they need to grow. And we are all on our own unique path. And we don't need to worry about where other people are. But we do get to do is take an honest look at ourselves for the good and for the challenges. and decide where we get to acknowledge ourselves for the truth of the goodness that we bring to the world and each other, and also hold space for our struggle with empathy, compassion, curiosity. Why does this keep happening? And some lighthearted humor. I was working at a retreat in California 4 years ago, and I met an incredible doctor who was on our team. And she shared this statement with me: let amusement be your muse. And that really stuck with me. Let amusement be your muse. Because what that speaks to is the healing power of humor and lightheartedness, not as a way to deflect the truth and protect ourselves from feeling the truth, but as a way to hold the truth of what's happening lightly. We don't need to pretend it's not happening or sugarcoat anything or glaze over it. But after we process the truth of how heavy things can feel, can we bring some lighthearted humor to it in hindsight? It's important to be able to laugh with ourselves and with each other about ourselves and about them, about the way we drive each other crazy, ourselves crazy sometimes. It's okay. There is a huge difference between being able to make fun of yourself and laugh at yourself in a loving way and degrading yourself and letting it feel so incredibly heavy. Like, I hate this, that I do this. And so this is where the shadow work comes in. And the shadow work and light work is all about, do I give myself permission to uncover the deeper layers of what's happening here? The things I can't see, that I'm unaware of, that I'm doing, that is going against my best interests, going against my potential? And how can I allow more light in so that I can continue to grow and evolve and learn and laugh at myself and move on? Everything we do can become a story that we get to tell, even if it's a hot mess situation. And when I think about how it must have looked that morning when I was a tornado of stress, almost late, with an overstuffed bag, not knowing which things to take out and kind of freaking out about it, it's honestly hilarious, especially in the context of, oh, hello, I'm a coach and I help you hold space for your higher self. You know, the truth is that so many people feel unqualified for the work they're extremely gifted in because of these moments. And I know that for a long time I did. I thought, how could I ever help anyone when I'm chronically late or unorganized? And the truth is, if I'm willing to look at everything objectively and not looking at myself through a distorted lens, the truth is, I am deeply intuitive and caring, and I'm able to perceive the world in a way that really helps people to be with the truth of their own potential. And that doesn't mean that I'm perfect, right? I want to invite you to think about if you were able to be honest with yourself and hold this lightly and with humor and curiosity and empathy and compassion for yourself and everyone else. What are the things that you have as a gift that you want to do, that you care about doing, or maybe that you're already doing or you're working towards, that you don't let yourself fully own just because you have moments that are challenging, just because there are some patterns that you continue to repeat that aren't really the best, that maybe you feel like, you know, because I do this thing, I don't deserve to do that thing. Where do you have examples like this that show up for you when I tell you these stories openly and authentically about my own life? Because the point of doing that is to say, honey, you are not alone. You are not alone if you've ever felt not enough. You are not alone if you've ever felt that you don't deserve to do the things you really want to do because you have these moments where you're compromised or you're disconnected from your higher self. We all do. We all do. And I spend a lot of time sitting in rooms with people who are very, very, very successful by every measure and metric that you could check off. And they too have these things about themselves that they're like, oh man, I'm just, there's these areas of life that make me feel vulnerable. We all have it. No one is above that. And so I want to invite lightness around where in your life, instead of making yourself wrong, could you say, at least I'm not boring? Or if you're the one who tends to be a rock or an earthy grounded person who is able to hold a solid structure of safety and predictability for your people, and you hear me share that story and you think, oh, that's my wife, oh, that's my daughter, oh, that's my whoever, the invitation here is, how can you release judgment and frustration around what they bring to your life and acknowledge the magic that they bring and how that is so needed to balance out the gifts that you bring? Everyone can't be like me or the world would fall apart. And everyone also can't be like my dad or my brother or other people in my life who are just different than me. Otherwise, the world wouldn't have as many shades of color because there's a way that they see the world that is more linear and logical. And it doesn't mean they're not creative or extremely creative or highly intelligent, because they are in a different way. And that is what I want us to notice. There are different forms of intelligence, and they are all needed. Some of it is emotional intelligence. Some of it is intuitive intelligence. Some of it is critical thinking skills or having an incredible memory or being an incredible problem solver. And a lot of us just have that in different areas. So instead of don't be weird or try to be more normal or I'm right and you're wrong, instead of bringing that energy to each other that we can tend to do, maybe out of love, maybe out of fear, maybe out of protection, maybe out of wanting to make sure that we all belong with each other, there's often good intent behind the ways that we try to keep each other in a neat little box that we think they should be in. But what if instead of that, we just let go of the need to control or to judge if someone else is right or wrong, and instead to have curiosity and noticing of who they are and what makes them so special? And what if we can have unconditional love and respect for one another even when we're different? What if we can say, at least you're not boring, even when someone is so different than us that it feels stressful? And we can't comprehend how they could be in the situation they're in because we're so different. What if we could say, I love the color you bring to my life. I love the structure you bring to my life. I love the trust you bring to my life. There's something that I often say, and it is, I don't need you to be like me for me to like you. And there's so much value in this simple, simple, simple perspective, because a lot of us walk around with this idea that I need you to be like me for me to like you. That's extremely limiting. What if we could walk around with, I need you to be you and me to be me? And together as two whole individuals, whole and complete individuals, we get to create harmony and balance and unconditional love. And how much more fun is that? variety really is the spice of life. And so if you are sometimes a hot mess, or you know someone who is, or if someone brings chaos energy or that person is you, I want you to take in this perspective and this sense of permission into your heart. It's okay to be different. It is okay to be you. You are not defective. You do not need fixing. You were born enough. You're here for a reason. You have a unique, specific purpose and reason that you're here. And the more you can be, the better it is for you and everyone else. Can you forgive yourself for the ways you're not perfect? Can you forgive yourself the way you don't have it all figured out yet? Can you forgive yourself for the ways that you have been frustrating, inconvenient, any of it? And notice how forgiving you've been to everyone else in your life for being like that too, in their own way. Can we bring forgiveness to our own heart, to our own soul, for the ways that we are perceived as not enough? And can we open up to receive this truth instead of unconditional love? You are loved. You are worthy. You are enough. And if you are on top of that, also choosing growth, choosing to look at yourself, choosing to stay open-minded, then you are even more ahead of everyone else who's choosing to stay stuck and to stay in judgment. It's not a competition, but I think it's incredibly valuable to be someone who's willing to look at, how can I do better? How can I be more embodied in my true essence? Because in our true soul essence, we are good. We're not judging. We're in unconditional love. We're inclusive. We're open. We're working together. We're collaborative. Everything is better from that place. But we will get stuck, all of us at times, in our human need to protect ourselves from being judged, being wrong, being not enough, being hurt, any of it. And when we get into protective mode, we're separate from our magic. And so when you notice yourself being stuck in a loop where you're causing chaos in your life, you're hurting yourself or others with the chaos, you might want to check in. What am I afraid of right now? What am I trying to protect myself from feeling right now? What purpose is this behavior serving? What do I need? And how can I love myself more? Lastly, apply that to everyone else in your life. Allow yourself to receive that first, and then apply it, mirror it back to everyone else. Everyone deserves that level of unconditional love and respect. How can you bring curiosity and compassion instead of judgment to yourself and your people? With little things like saying, it's okay. At least you're not boring. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I am going to go meet up with my family now for a poolside dinner that my brother's cooking. I'm so grateful for this experience. And the only reason I'm able to genuinely, authentically say that is because of this work that I have done to practice openness instead of judgment towards myself and others. And so I invite you to take this seriously because this can bring so much lightness to your life. Please reach out if you have questions. I would love to support you. And thank you for being here. I'm so grateful. May you feel alive and inspired in your authentic soul-led life. This is Stephanie Sauvé-Bogue with Moon Wild Studio, and this is Yubu Podcast. Need you